Next item is public safety reports.
For the November and December report to you guys since we weren't here last month. So starting with November, we had a total of 69 calls for the city. That's a 14% decrease from last year, 2021 November. 87% of them is going to be EMS. We only had one fire in the month of November. It was a small vehicle fire put out by a single engine response. Notable calls, we only had one cardiac arrest within the city. About 5 of those, a handful of ALS 962s or car accidents with injuries. And then the majority of the Hacienda and Loma Linda calls. I think we had 16 in Hacienda, with half of those being falls, 11 of those being transports. I know our EMS division has been reaching out to the assisted living facilities, trying to educate them on some of the falls, which I noticed a drop in Loma Linda's both December and November. We had 11 falls, only one of them was falls, but we still have about 8 transports, so they are a high-risk community. We still have lots of medical, other calls, those facilities. We also have a couple false alarms, most of them, one being at the school and a couple of residentials, and 45 occupancy inspections for the month of November. December was also a decrease. It was 63 cold calls, with a decrease of 23% compared to December 2021. No fires, and then 90% of those calls were EMS transports for us. Loma Linda was low again too. 11 calls, only 2 of those for the radio to report their alarm systems. So that's why they ended up looking at that event. That's the just my report base, and then if they were admitted or not admitted for that prior, so we try to do that on the front end, so we don't have that follow-up. I was aware if I can follow up my EMS division on the backside of that.
And then the follow-up to that was just share quick experiences. Do you have chest pain? Would give her a totally different response.
Yes, sometimes there are leading questions that I think that's what comes with experiences as paramedics in the field. So you obviously, we do have to rule out some of the pertinent negatives to make sure that we're not missing something like that. So yeah, I think that is something that we work on with our paramedic training and questioning and patient.
But so they called 911. They said it's an automatic 911 if you say yes to that answer. And then the paramedics who responded asked her if she was having chest pains, and she said yes. And then again, it was an automatic transport to the hospital because of that. So and that she was just
ruled that out, and they found a doctor. They said, "Do you have chest pain?" I do. Radiating down the left arm, and the doctor looks at us. Didn't give him aspirin. So they tell us that.
I didn't presume to tell you how to do your job. So
no,
thank you for your.
No, I'll follow up with our investigation on that to see if there's something they can track that on the back end. So, thanks for the input.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Appreciate what you and your guys do.
Thank you.
Avondale Police Department.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff. I apologize, I don't have the complete stats for November. That what month this is. I do have a few of the stats that we had. So in the month of November, we had a total of 209 calls for service. It was a relatively quiet month for November. We did have 19 traffic stops, and then we also had 9, I apologize, 3 flock alerts. It was kind of a quiet month for the flock system. Out of those flock alerts, we did have 1 contact that we were able to identify the vehicle. For the month of December, we had 224 calls for service. We had 30 increase in presence in our school zone details during that time. We have also increased our traffic stops from 19 in the previous month. We increased it up to 39. We were starting to force some traffic along Oldest Road, but the roundabouts quite a bit, especially as the end of the construction's coming forward, and trying to remind people to slow down and abide by the speed limit. We issued 13 traffic citations and 26 warnings. Officer, we also had 9 flock alerts throughout all the cameras in the city, and we were able to locate 4. Our officers contacted Goodyear Police, let them know golf cart was stolen. They came and responded and took that golf cart from us. So we were able to identify a lead for that, pass on to Goodyear, so I'm not sure where we're at with that case, but I know that we found a charge one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit today, and it happened, it's actually occurred during the month of January, is we've had several incidents up at the Loma Homestead recently up here. We've had 3 incidents in the last month of January up there. Most recently, we had 2 incidents on the 14th and the 15th this past weekend up there of trespassing and vandalism. On the 15th, one of our officers was doing a routine patrol up there due to the increase of presence, and she located a vehicle up in the area and then requested backup. Another officer showed up and they were able to catch 5 juvenile males up there who had vandalized and trespassed on that property. So we identified those 4 males, and then, or I'm sorry, those 5 males that were from the 15th incident. We're working on that case with all charges with the Juvenile County Attorney's Office. We're gathering the total value through city management on with Kyle and his help so we can see how much the whole total damage is to that. And so we're able to identify through some officers' investigation 2 other individuals that were separate from these kids that committed the criminal damage and trespassing the day before. Completely unrelated, don't know each other. They just see this abandoned building that's up there, and they think it's something for them to damage. So we identified those suspects. We're also finishing up that case to submit charges on them also with damage. I'll jump back to the 11th where we had another incident up there, and as of yesterday, we were able to identify 2 other suspects, all juvenile males who were up there trespassing and committing criminal damage up there. So it is a high point of interest for the city and the police department, and we frequently monitor that area and make sure that we can be out there the best we can. We have cameras up there, we have signs, so we're doing the best we can to get up there and deter anybody from entering that homestead. So it's a work in progress. We don't want it to go to waste, so we're very diligent on that. So that is all I have for you folks. Any questions?
Just a quick question. So in 2 of those incidences, the cameras worked, correct? That's how you found the two of those vandalism or no?
Yes, part of one was the foxes. We viewed some of the videos of the foxes and catching a vehicle to go up there. The most recent one was an officer just doing a routine.
I don't want to say too much of an investigation on that. So I'm going to stop.
I don't know, but why would we not have an alarm system that had an actual physical alarm going off? People could hear. So if somebody's up there breaking into the place, the alarm goes off. Well, and call. I mean, it would be both.
Which is the
I thought we had that kind of system.
That's what the flash.
The flex system.
That's what the flash.
No.
I feel like we had this discussion a couple of years ago. We didn't sit in. I top of my head, I don't remember why, but we've had this discussion before.
Maybe this was something you could take back and figure it out and have another discussion. Just go.
The group home on Cascade. Any updates on that?
Yes, we were out there Tuesday, I believe, and the information that I heard, those residents were moving out. We're working back and forth with city code enforcement to provide them the legal paperwork that they have to adhere to certain rules and stuff like that. I haven't heard where we're at yet with the city code enforcement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the solutions to this problem up on the hill is if the Historical Society would get started on the program.
Maybe you could go and suggest that to them.
Well, can we get an update on it?
Yes, I plan on doing that for you. If you want it right now or.
No, if it's not on the agenda, so we can't do that, but we can certainly put it on as an agenda item on the agenda.
Thanks a lot.
Can I just?
Other questions?
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank your officers for their diligent work for us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, next item is staff reports. We have a finance monthly report. Is it different from the report we just heard?
This month I have a report through December of this fiscal year. If you want a quick update, I could run through it.
Quick
real fast.
update would be nice. Thumbnail kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll do the quick version.
Not like a really long.
This report is through December of is down 21%. However, last year we had a significant audit payment of $320,000. So had we not received that one-time payment, we would have been 11% higher. So our retail, restaurants, online are all higher than they were last year. Year to date, sales tax is up 6%. Construction sales tax is up 4% for the month and down 24% for the year, but we're at about 60% of budget. So that's all I have with sales tax. Get to the full report, the thumbnail version. Overall, our revenues are just under $6.7 million, or at 51% of budget. Our general fund expenses are at 4.9, taxes $600,000, or 57% of budget. And so far, we've spent $642,000 on capital projects, including $192,000 for the patrol cars. The Litchfield Square expenses are reported separately. So this gives us a general fund ending fund balance of $22.8 million. $149,000 are only 46% of budget, so we are coming in short there. We have spent $477,000 on HERF projects, which leaves us an ending balance of $994,000. Litchfield Square, through the end of December, invoices paid is nearly $4 million.
For an excellent report. All right, takes us to the crane plume update. Is the plume changed?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I did want to report that we received the well numbers. So the well site is producing or generating a 0.19 parts per million of the TCE, which is almost unmeasurable at this point. So every year and every 5 years we get a huge decrease. So
Which well is that? Is that the lake well?
the only one that the city owns and operates is
For the lake?
yeah. So good news there. That's all I have.
I didn't think we had any contamination TCE in that lake, in a lake well.
Well, this is coming out of the well, and so previously the well had produced up to 1. It starts getting dangerous at 5.
Right.
So we've never been in any kind of a danger zone, and I'm looking back in the 1990s and 2000s, it got close to 1 and 1.5.
Now it's 1.19?
And now it's 0.19.
Well, 0.19.
0.19.
All right, that's fine. All right, thank
Any
you.
questions?
No questions? All right, we'll move on. Capital improvement projects, you can stand up there and
I'll give you a quick thumbnail on this as well. Vista Verde Drainage Improvement Projects is complete. It's a $460,000 project in which this flood control district actually reimbursed us for 75% of that. We have invoiced for half of that, or $170,000. We're about to generate the second invoice for that now that we're complete. The minor cleanup items and a little bit of grass and some ponding that they're going to take care of with some catch basin modifications.
so how did it work at this last rain?
It's about 4 inches, and it's because it's so flat. The swale that was designed is less than 0.5%. It's really hard to construct something at that percentage. So the major flows didn't come anywhere in homes
So no condos got washed
at
out?
all.
All right, good.
For the second capital project, the pavement replacement, which also involves Vista Verde Circle, there was about $620,000 in pavement replacement, which included the Vista Verde Circles and La Casa. That project is about 99% complete with some minor striping. So they have brand new pavement in those 2 areas. Upcoming CIP, Stag's parking lot, we're currently finalizing contract language with the contractor. Just had some delays because they're stretched pretty thin with labor and getting their hands on asphalt scheduling. That project should start here in about February. That's a $265,000 parking lot project. Then I started Indian School Rec reconstruction project. We're in pre-final plans. It's about 600. We had budgeted about $1 million in HERF revenue to be used for that improvements, and that project just starts sometime in the late spring or early summer, but in this fiscal year, trying to get it completed for the fiscal year. And then we're currently working on the fiscal year about $600,000 to pay for rejuvenation.
Yeah, man, they did a nice job. Well managed operation.
And they're going to be doing Stag's parking lot. So
Right, that's what I understand.
Okay, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
That brings us to our consent agenda. We have items 9A through J. Does any member of the council wish to take any of these items off for further discussion?
Can I ask a question?
You have a question about the consent agenda?
Yes, just one question.
Sure.
Just there's an item on there, B, that already occurred, like 2 weeks ago. Is that normal to, and I'm just asking for education purposes.
Which one?
It's a ratification of a street closure. Yeah, that already happened. Is that?
Yeah.
Councilman James, I don't have the authority to sort of close the street, but the project needed to get done.
Oh.
So, I don't know that you meant to, sir, but we skipped over the special projects update.
Okay, well, you know, I didn't mean to skip over it, so as soon as we finish the consent agenda, we're gonna finish consent and then we're gonna go to it. So is there any item on the consent agenda, 9A through J, that any councilman wants to take on? Okay, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda is adopted. Now we're gonna have more time now for special project update.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just a quick update on Splitfield Square, and then I'll also talk about the storm drain a little bit. So on January 9th, we had a preliminary walkthrough on Splitfield Road. It's basically complete. The contractor is doing some corrective work at this time. We'll have our final walkthrough tomorrow, and then the plan, assuming everything goes well, the plan is to open it to traffic, pull down the barricades, open it to traffic on Monday. Both sidewalks and pavers on Village Parkway are being installed as we speak tonight, but tomorrow will be open. Landscaping on Village Parkway is also underway. As you know, GMP4 for Litchfield School hooked to all of the electrical facilities in Litchfield Square have now been completed and they're all energized. So don't stick your hand in any of the transformers out there. We're currently working with for the initial development of the park and some streets to bring that forward. In Fairway Drive, when that's finished, the environment will go over to Neolan Street, Neolan Avenue, and then finally on Old Litchfield Road. We had the Old Litchfield Road, part of it, most part of it until mid-April. But we had our first stakeholder meeting with businesses, Wigwam and so on. Got a lot of good input from those folks. Have taken that input and we'll come back to them in another second stakeholder meeting before construction and make sure we've got all of their concerns addressed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for? Oh, yes, Councilman Romack.
Woody, Aiken Gardens, can you just kind of, how have they been to work with?
Excellent.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go into our normal business agenda. Item 10A is setting our regular council meeting schedule. Currently, the quorum if we need it. So the question is whether we want to stay with our current scheduling on the third Wednesday, or if somebody wants to suggest a change. Otherwise, I'd like to have a motion to maintain the third Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m. as our regularly scheduled meeting, with a request to council members that they understand that we may have special meetings on the first Wednesday of the month. Either special meetings or work studies. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have a schedule. We know when we're going to meet. Next is a temporary construction easement with Wigwam Joint Venture LP.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This item is for the city to receive temporary construction easements along the east side of Old Litchfield Road so that we can build 2 catch basins and do some paving work at the drop off at the spot location there. During the design, we discovered that the right-of-way line is relatively close to the back of the curb. So you can imagine that the palm trees and the sidewalk are actually on Wigwam property. The curb is in the right-of-way, but if you move just a few feet behind the back of the curb, you're on their property. So we need to have be within the right-of-way, but we're going to disturb the area around the catch basins while we're building. And that will go into their property. So we've asked Wigwam to work with us on this, and they did. We have negotiated the agreement that is attached in your packet. And I've been told today that they're in the process, Wigwam is in the process of signing this agreement, and we'll have it in the next day or so. Any questions?
Council communication that actually applies to the trench that's going in under the.
That we need is for a trench drain that we will install as part of the storm drain project on the west side of Litchfield Road, right there at the entrance to the underpass. And the reason we need to do that is because you're installing a pump station on the east side of the underpass. The floor of the underpass actually slopes back to the west by a few inches. So we had the choice of either taking that floor out and replacing it so it slopes back to the east, but then we still have to do something with drainage on the other side. Or maybe putting a pipe in that area. So I came up with the idea of a trench drain, which I've used, and then DG so that the water can get into the trench drain, but the silt and everything gets caught on the DG. Eventually, Kyle will have to go in there, pull back in maybe a few years, 5 years, pull back the DG, replace that filter valve, the DG back on when it gets clogged up. But that's a much more cost-effective way of dealing with that last few inches of water that will remain on the west side of the underpass, because it can't make it over the hump to get to the pump station.
And the city is going to pay for that TCD forever?
No, we're renting it.
But for how long? For as long as it's in there?
For the period of the construction.
And we're not going to put anything in there permanent because there's always a problem with water.
No, the permanent easement is another action item.
All right. We'll get to
This is just a temporary construction easement. I'm sorry, the Wigwam required that the temporary construction easement agreement be separate from the permanent easement.
All right. Any questions about these temporary construction easements? If not, is there a motion to approve an agreement with Wigwam Joint Venture LP for the temporary construction easements as described in your packet?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item B passes. Item C, authorizing adjustments to the existing easements related to relocation of the Airline Canal.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this has to do with, as I mentioned earlier, relocation of the Airline Canal to get it out of the way of the Litchfield Square future construction, one of which is the possibly a parking garage on the Scott Lodge site. So we're abandoning a portion of the canal, and in a pipe, we're moving the canal up to Fairway Drive, across Fairway Drive, and back down to the canal. So we need to, there are existing easements for this canal, so we need to modify those easements. We will be, since we own the property, we'll be awarding 2 easements to the Wigwam owners for the north-south portions of the pipe. The east-west portion is in the right-of-way, so there's no need for an easement. That's one thing. The second thing is that we want to abandon when we remove the portion of the canal that's in the way, we want to abandon that easement, get rid of it. And the third thing is, Wigwam is aware that their canal is not entirely located within the easement. They have asked us to clean up, if you will, the easement for the remaining portion of the canal that's going to stay in place from where Scout Lodge is over to Splitfield Road. Those three things are what we're asking the mayor and council to authorize tonight.
So when you say clean up the easement for the canal, that means the canal is located not on their property, not within the easement?
A portion of it, about a third of it, is located outside of the easement.
And how have they reacted when we've asked them to do the same thing for us?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
When we've asked them to move the easement because we have something that's that is touching their, like, for example, the sidewalk area around the circle, as an example. But there's other examples where we've had to get them to move easements or give us an easement. I don't recall them being real cooperative in doing that.
This was an inducement to get them to approve the relocation of the canal in the first place.
I will support it, but I want you to communicate with them that I'm not pleased with them at all because of the fact that they have not been willing to work with us as reasonable partners in any of this other stuff at all.
I understand, I'll pass that on to them.
You could shut their canal down if we had to, which we obviously don't want to do because you don't want to shut down the red course. But
where are you going to put the water? You put the water in the tunnel?
Well, it gives to the people who live in North Scottsdale.
Is it really dirty?
Yeah.
And they want us to clean it?
No, it's illegality.
Do what?
They have our canal's good.
They want to put goldfish in
We're cleaning up the legal issue, not the actual water.
You know.
there? Oh.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 23-539 to adjust the existing easements related to the relocation of the Airline Canal?
So,
Is there a second? Any further discussion?
Strictly.
What?
Strictly.
Strictly, that's right. No fish. No
Yeah.
fish in that.
Strictly adopt.
All those in favor? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so they have their easement. We're happy. Thank you. Garpath Trench permanent easement.
Okay, I mentioned this as part of the trench drain on the west side of Litchfield Road. You already approved the temporary construction easement, so we can go ahead and build it. Once it's built, we need to have a permanent easement so that we can get in there. Kyle's people can get in there and work on the trench drain if necessary, clean it and so on. So again, we worked with Wigwam, who owns that property over there, to agree to give us this permanent easement, and they have agreed to do so. I'm not sure. I think this is also the one that's currently being signed. I don't know for certain on that, but they have not objected once we worked out through some of the issues that they have with the easement.
They're right nicer. Look at it.
Yeah,
That only took 1 minute.
You have to realize we are solving a huge problem for them.
Oh.
They have to pump that canal out every time there's a big rain, and now we're spending money to fix it. And they're just being nice to us,
So
to allow us to fix it. So I feel really good about it. Is there a motion to approve a permanent easement agreement with Wigwam Joint Venture LP for the trench drain on the west side of the Litchfield Road cart path underpass?
So
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
that's nicely.
Any opposed? Nicely. Let them know we did it nicely.
Nicely slap their hands. Thank you.
Okay. Next item is item 10E, introduction of ordinance 23-265 on engine braking. Mr. Williams.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Council, this is the first reading of the engine braking ordinance. For those of you that were at the truck meeting back before Christmas, you may remember there was a discussion about this, that we have a Jake braking ordinance. Some people call it engine braking ordinance, some people call it Jake braking. And actually, a representative from the trucking association said, "Why don't you have an ordinance to do this?" We are. So we base this off other cities. It's pretty short and simple. No jake breaking in the city. Obviously, unless there was an emergency, then they could. So we're a pretty flat city, honestly. I can't imagine there's that much jake breaking going on anyway. But now there'll be an ordinance in the books, and most cities already have this. So once this goes through the process, of course, there could be no jake breaking in the city.
There were a lot of comments at the public meeting about jake breaks.
Yes, sir.
A lot of comments, which was really surprising. Because there is no reason to be using a jake brake on a camel ride.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, it's amazing. Okay, is there a motion to introduce ordinance 23-265 to amend city code to add a new subsection on engine braking? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye. All right. It is introduced. Next item is a memorandum of understanding with Cat Clar. Mr. Williams.
Mr. Mayor and Council will be recommending tabling this item until February 2nd.
All right. Then is there a motion to table the memorandum of understanding with Cat Clar?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next item is Litchfield Road roundabout traffic devices. We may want to have an executive session on this, is that correct?
I would recommend we do that, sir.
Okay. So is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss item 10G and obtain advice of counsel on item 10G?
Could we ask to make that to the end of the agenda?
It is the end.
Oh, sorry.
Mayor,
It's the last item.
if we could have just a motion to do all executive sessions and do that, so we don't have to come back.
Is there another executive session?
There is another executive session with regard to Charter City formation.
Okay, so is there a motion to go into executive session on two different issues? Item 10G and also Charter City to obtain advice of our council. Is there a second? Executive session. When we got out of executive session, the only thing that will happen is we may have some action to approve changing directional arrows in the traffic circle. So there will be an item of business taken up after executive session. So if you would like to hear that item of business, you're welcome to wait outside where it's cold.
Wait a minute, changing the arrows on the